Hello, Cleveland. We have sounded the alarm on another 1085 victory pod. The Browns beat the Buffalo Bills today, 19-16. I am your host, Anthony Joki. As always, I got Jack and Curry rolling with me today. How you doing today, Jack?
Feeling good. The victory alarm has been sounded, finally. It's a long time coming.
It has been a while. It has definitely been way too long since we've been able to sound that alarm. Let's jump right into how they got there right at the end of the game. Rashard Higgins has been MIA for many, many weeks. There was a story that surfaced this week about how he potentially refused to go into the Seattle game, which was his first game back from injury. And, there's just been the total storm, media storm around him so far this season, wondering why he isn't playing. He's one of Baker's favorite targets, and he finally got injured today. Granted, he had one target. He made it count, though. He had one reception for 7 yards, and it just happened to be the game-winning touchdown that allowed the Browns to beat the Bills today.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it for weeks, like what's going on with Rashard Higgins. Obviously, you did mention that article by Jason Lloyd talking about the whole Seattle fiasco. But, for him to come in, and earlier in the game, I was at work during the first half, and my buddy texts me, and he goes, Kadarius Hodge is in before Rashard Higgins. And I had tweeted that this morning jokingly, but, obviously Higgins has been in the doghouse for something, but he came in and made the play when we needed him the most. He even talked about it post-game that he had a dream that he was going to score the game-winning touchdown. And, for it to happen, and be so dramatic and so right that Baker found his favorite target to win the game. I mean, it was just an awesome play. And hopefully this is a sign that, Higgins has the confidence and the trust in the coaching staff again, and we see more of Higgins because we know that connection that him and Baker have. And obviously in the moment when we needed it the most, the duo struck again and helped us win the game.
Yeah, Rashard played in 32 of a possible 66 snaps today, which is by far more than he has for the last few weeks, especially, and coming back from injury too. So it's nice to get him back in there. Obviously, he's Baker's security blanket. We saw that last year, and it just continued to prove to be true. And that's why it makes everything that's gone on over the last couple of weeks so puzzling, because you can see what he does when he actually gets out on the field, and for him to go out there, catch that game-winning touchdown, it just adds to the list of befuddling things that this coaching staff has done.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, if he did, and because we haven't even talked about this, if he did refuse to go in the Seattle game, shame on him. And obviously, if you're not listening to what the coaches say, they're not going to play you. I mean, and I feel like that might have been something that happened with Antonio Callaway, why he was inactive today. Kitchen said that that's between him and Antonio. Maybe Antonio messed up or something. But, Higgins is obviously gaining that trust back. They put him down. They put him on the field in that critical play in the red zone, and he made the play. So hopefully this is a sign that he's building that trust back up. He needs to be on the field more. I mean, with all the weapons we have, he is Baker's go-to target. And we all know that if he does throw it Rashard Higgins' way, 81's going to make a play. And then subsequently, we're going to roll out the red carpet because, he's automatic for a touchdown.
Yeah, that was a great line that he had. They interviewed him in the stadium after the game. They asked him what happened on that final play. And he said, I shook the defender out of his shoes and I rolled out the red carpet. So it's nice to have him back, and hopefully as we move on forward, there'll be an integral part of this Browns offense that has so many playmakers. And I know they got an extension done this week with J.C. Treader, but I hope that they can get one done with Higgins. I would love for him to be back. So let's talk about a couple other playmakers who got to share the field today, and that is Nick Chubb, who had about 120 yards today, and making his Cleveland Browns debut in the regular season was Kareem Hunt. Hunt was all over the field today. They used him in many different ways. Jack, what did you think of the way Freddie Kitchens, Todd Monken utilized both Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb in their first game together this season?
I thought they did it really well. I think, obviously we all knew Kareem Hunt was going to be an X factor on this offense whenever he decided to make his debut, not only as a runner, but also in the receiving game. And then we also knew that you couldn't go completely away from Nick Chubb just because of the awesome start to the season he's had. He's top 5 in the league in rushing yards. He's inching closer to 1,000 yards after today's game. But I really think they utilized him well, having them both in the backfield at the same time. And whether or not they were going to get the ball in a play, having the defense have to focus on not just one elite running back, but two, it probably shook Buffalo's defense, and I think it will continue to shake defenses down the stretch here. I loved how they utilized Kareem Hunt as a blocker. That's one of the underrated aspects of his game. He made some key blocks today and helped open up lanes for Nick Chubb, who averaged 5.8 yards per carry today. And, to incorporate Kareem Hunt into the passing game was a huge thing, and it opened up stuff for Jarvis Landry, for Odell Beckham, obviously for Rashard Higgins on the touchdown. Hunt caught 7 of his 9 targets, so Baker knows that he's going to be able to rely on Chubb in those passing situations. Or Hunt, I'm sorry. Hunt, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, they did a really good job about him. Using him in motion, pre-snap stuff, and I wrote about it in our Keys to the Game over on the Dogland, that was released this morning before the game, that utilizing him in motion is only going to help this Browns offense out, lining him up in the slot, bringing him across, which they did a few times, having both him and Nick Chubb in the backfield at the same time is helpful. Just using him as a decoy as much as you can is only going to help this offense out. And I think you saw the potential of how those two guys on the field together can make this thing really, really work. And their use of 2 running backs, 1 tight end, or just 2 running backs and 3 receivers today, I think was very beneficial. And you saw... I think other guys like the receivers, Landry and Odell, benefit from it with all the quick passes that they were able to execute with the motion that Kareem Hunt was running. Yeah,
definitely. And if they want to incorporate more of an RPO plays into the system, that's perfect because teams are going to focus on Kareem Hunt in that aspect, and it's only going to open up stuff for Beckham, for Landry, once Njoku gets back, anybody that's out as a wide receiver in that aspect, because now, Kareem Hunt's in the fold, and obviously teams were paying attention to Nick Chubb. Now they're going to have to pay attention to the fact that Hunt's back there. And, I don't think people forgot, but people may have forgot how good Kareem Hunt was. Obviously what he did off the field was terrible. Don't condone that by any aspect, but that guy was obviously the rushing leader in the NFL his rookie year. He has 10 receiving touchdowns in his short NFL career. He's a dual threat at the running back position, and when he's on, he's right there with McCaffrey, with Barkley, with any of these top running backs that can do it in both rushing and receiving.
Well, let's talk about some of the play calling, because while the Browns offense did look a little bit better, there were still some very questionable play callings, and we'll start with the 8 plays that they ran inside the 5-yard line in the first half where they were not able to get a touchdown. They ended up getting stuffed on 4th down. Jack, when you see stuff like that, we've been begging for them to run the football close to the goal line, to run Nick Chubb, and they did, but when you start to go east and west with these pitches and not run north and south, with a dive play, you're asking yourself for trouble, and they were not able to score inside the 5-yard line because of that.
Yeah, that was completely baffling. Like, I had to go back and watch those plays, and like I can't believe when you have a runner like Nick Chubb that you're doing tosses and, like you said, running east and west. Like, this guy is a north and south downhill punch you in the mouth type of runner, and you're utilizing him that way. I can understand if you're going to use Kareem Hunt that way, just because that's the type of running back he is, where he can go on the outside and make plays like that. But with Nick Chubb, run it up the middle, throw out McCray as an extra lineman, like, pound it up the middle with that guy. Like, that's how you get it done. And that was just baffling. Not only that, to see that it took 7 plays from the 1 or 2 yard line and they couldn't punch that in, that just completely blew my mind. So obviously, while we won today, and it was ugly, and that's part of it. You can't be too down on it, because at the end of the day, we still got the W. But obviously, they still have things to clean up. It was no means a perfect win, but at the end of the day, a win's a win.
Yeah, there's still a lot to clean up. Now, the nice thing is that over the last 2 games, they have not turned the football over. The offense wasn't penalized last week. This week, I believe they were penalized twice, once on the Jarvis taunting penalty after he scored a touchdown, which was a beautiful throw. And also there's a false start there inside the 5 on the other side where they ended up taking a field goal because they were going to go for it on 4th down again. So they've really done a good job in cleaning that stuff up. Hopefully this Rashard Higgins thing where he scored a game-winning touchdown will give them confidence going into the red zone from now on. And that's really, I think, the last area on this team that they need to clean up the most is the offense in the red zone. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, because, I mean, last year when Baker Mayfield came in as the quarterback, we were automatic in the red zone. He didn't turn the ball over. He was completing over 60%, and I think it was like 20 touchdowns in the red zone. He did passing. And now this year it's been the direct opposite. He's only completing around 35%. He's turned the ball over a ton, although the last 2 weeks in total, he hasn't had any turnovers. So kudos to him. Kudos to the coaching staff for simplifying things to a degree, although there was some questionable throws today that could have been turned over. But, yeah, hopefully, that play, also the Landry touchdown at the beginning of the game, that was another red zone touchdown. So hopefully, they're building confidence that they can get back to the team that was so dominant, and the team that, everybody rallied around last year in the second half, when we were one of, if not the best red zone team in the NFL during the second half of last year.
How would you grade Baker Mayfield's overall performance today against the Buffalo Bills?
I would give it probably like a B+. Like I said, there was some questionable throws. Obviously, the one, throwing it to Beckham, and Tre'Davious White should have intercepted it, but thank God Jordan Poyer, who's a former Brown, so maybe that's why he did it. He ran into White and completely botched the what would have been a turnover for the Buffalo Bills. But Baker was good. He didn't turn the ball over. He only got sacked twice, so he was able to get the ball away. And he was able to get it to all his top targets. When you have Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, who are 2 of the top wide receivers in the NFL, the job is to get them the ball. Throwing it to them today, he was 14 of 22 for 144 yards and a touchdown. That's what you need to do when you have guys like that. Obviously, he incorporated Kareem Hunt in the game as well. So it was a good day for Baker. He's building on this. He had a good game today. Now it's time to build on it. You got Pittsburgh coming in a couple days. So, and it's the division game. It's the first division game since the Baltimore game, and you're going to have a lot of these down the stretch. So these are the games you have to take care of. And I know Baker looked happy today. You've seen a smile on Baker's face. I think it's the first time all season we've seen it. So I feel like he's growing confidence, the offense is growing confidence, and the team is going to grow confidence off this W. Obviously, there's things they got to work on, but you got to feel good about the win, and now you move on to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I noticed that he was really ready for the game. I haven't seen him do this before the game when they came out of the tunnel. He ran all the way down to the dog pound and was extremely jacked up and got those fans jacked up as well. So he was beyond focused and ready to go. I think he quietly had a good game last week against Denver. I know, they were 0 for 5 in the red zone last week against Denver, but I thought not turning the ball over was a good step in the right direction. And now he's been able to do that 2 weeks in a row without turning it over this week against the Buffalo Bills. So he's had 2 quiet games of piecing things together and maybe getting back to the guy that we saw last year that was so dangerous and really was able to lift the Browns offense when they needed him the most. So I think he's quietly getting there after these last 2 performances, and hopefully, Thursday night against Pittsburgh and from there on out, he can be the quarterback that we believe he can be. Let's talk about the defense a little bit. I thought that they did a very good job today of not completely breaking. I know that first touchdown that Josh Allen had on the quarterback draw that was called was not a good look. I leaned over to my dad before they even snapped the ball, and the middle of the field, you could drive a semi-truck through there. That's how wide open it was, and Allen went in untouched at that point. He did have the quarterback sneak for a touchdown from the 1 yard line and punched it in, but besides that, I thought the defense did a really good job, especially in the run defense, where Buffalo has really excelled so far this season. They only had 20 carries for 84 yards today, so I thought the Browns defense definitely rose up to the challenge. You saw guys like Denzel Ward really step up today. I know Allen got some throws in there into some zones that were tough throws, but I thought the defense did a really good job of containing Allen as best as they could.
Yeah, I mean, they made Allen have to make some critical throws. He did make some critical throws, but, like you said, they shut down the run for the most part. I mean, Singletary was their leading rusher with 42 yards. Frank Gore was nowhere to be found. It seems like they're going in that direction where Singletary's the lead back, and he should be, because he definitely provides a little bit more juice than Frank Gore at this point in their careers. Beasley made some great plays today. John Brown made some good plays. Obviously, Allen relies on those guys heavily. I was impressed with Dawson Knox, their rookie tight end. He made some great plays and was able to get some separation from the safeties and the linebackers today. But, Buffalo's offense, they've relied on the run a lot, but today the Browns defense made it a point to have Allen beat you with his arm, and he's not ready for that yet. He barely completed over 50% of his passes. That was the knock on him coming out of Wyoming, was his accuracy. And while he's made strides, he's nowhere near the quarterback that you can rely on in big games like ones today, that he can beat you with his arm. He still has flaws in his game, obviously, and the Browns exposed that today.
Yeah, this defense, has taken a lot of criticism, and rightfully so. The running game and the way Brandon Allen last week was able to light them up a little bit. Going into this week, you thought that Josh Allen, who is a much better quarterback than Brandon Allen, would kind of be able to do the same kinds of things that they saw last week, and maybe the game last week kind of paved a good game plan for Steve Wilkes and this Browns defense this week, in that you knew Buffalo was going to try to run, and they wanted Josh Allen to beat them with his arm, and he made some really good throws like I talked about, but eventually, when the game mattered the most, they were able to buckle down and force them into a long field goal situation, which I believe ended up short. I couldn't tell if it ended up short or if it was a little left. I think it ended up short. But, forcing him into that long field goal was obviously great. And, when you look at this game as a whole, it's not often that we've talked about complimentary football on this podcast, at least this season, and I think the Browns kind of got back to that a little bit today and did a good job between the offense, defense, and even special teams too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Seibert missed a point after early in the game, but that was because of Landry's taunting penalty against Levi Wallace. But, Seibert bounced back, made the kicks the rest of the game that we needed to. Jay McGillen continues to have a great rookie campaign. I mean, I'd have to look and see where he ranks among the AFC punters, but you could make a strong case that as a rookie, Gillen could be in consideration for the Pro Bowl, which would be awesome for him. Seibert, he could be in consideration as well. He's converted all 16 of his field goal attempts this year. He's only missed 2 point afters, I think. But both of those guys have been awesome. But, yeah, you did mention it. Complimentary football. You've been talking about it all season. And the Browns really did that today. Now, the pass-run ratio, it did get closer to that 50-50 range. Baker only threw it 38 times today, while we ran it 26 times. If we can get that closer, Baker's pass attempts go down, the rushing attempts go up. I feel like this offense is going to click more, that you don't have to rely on Baker so much because you have guys like Chubb and Hunt to lead on in the running game, especially down the stretch where the weather's starting to turn. The cold's coming in. We're getting snow this week. Like, this is the football that Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb were made for. And if we can rely on the run game, then I think the passing game will obviously open up, and it'll extend our drives and give our defense more rest to where they can be coming out and firing on all cylinders as well.
Yeah, Thursday is definitely going to be a huge matchup with Pittsburgh coming to town. Is there anything else you want to discuss about this game before we move on?
I think we covered all aspects of this game.
All right. One thing we want to talk about is today there were a ton of Buffalo Bills fans in that stadium. I want to say it was 70-30, maybe even a third Buffalo fans. And why this is relevant is yesterday, I guess you could say it was last night, J.W. Johnson tweeted out, it's not the start we all wanted, but it's how we finish that matters now. We need the best and most loyal fans in the NFL to show up tomorrow and be loud and proud for your Browns. Game time, on time, go Browns. Then there's somebody who responded to him, Bills fans will be taking up half the stadium, to which J.W. Johnson responded, show up and do something about it. I know you have a take that you wanted to talk about his tweet here, so I'll let you have the floor and discuss it.
Yeah, I think that was ridiculous by J.W. Johnson to say that. I get where he's coming from in that aspect of, someone saying, well, the Bills fans are showing up, they're going to be taking over the stadium. And, he doesn't have to say that. I get why he said it, but he didn't need to say it. This just goes to show that the Haslams continue to be a joke and a laughing stock. I know they're trying all they can to bring a winner back to Cleveland, and they've done a lot, but they continue to overstep their boundaries when they don't need to. And this is why I have no faith in them, despite what they've done. And I won't take anything away from that. They've put all the resources out there to help the Browns become a winner. But they just need to step back and stay in the shadows and let the people that they've picked to do their jobs do their jobs. Like, I don't need to see, the owner or the owner's son-in-law or whatever he is making comments like this. And don't try to say that the fans need to show up, because we showed up during 1-31 when they brought Hugh Jackson back for a third season. Like, we've been through a lot under the Haslam regime, and he doesn't need to tell the fans to show up, because they showed up through everything. Maybe sometimes the stadium wasn't full, but a lot of fans showed up, and it's just a joke that he would have to make a statement like that.
Yeah, I would say they definitely showed up today. Even right at the end when they had that reversal of the fumble that the Bills thought they was going to be a touchdown. That stadium got really loud. That's the loudest I think I've heard it all season, and it was nice to hear that, especially with all those Buffalo fans. I don't know if that played a part in it or not, but the way with how loud that stadium was at the end of the game today, I know my voice is hurting from it. I don't know if you can tell or not on the podcast, but Thursday night it is even going to be louder. And I'm not going to challenge the fans because it is Pittsburgh. You don't have to say anything. The fans on Thursday night are really going to come full force, and it's going to be a great atmosphere. I don't think there will be as many Pittsburgh fans as we typically get. Last year, that first game, there weren't that many, and especially winning today, I think is really going to improve the mood and the atmosphere Thursday night. Plus, it's a weeknight, so unless they're taking off Friday to come to the game and kind of stay in a couple days, I think that the stadium on Thursday is going to be, 90-10 Browns Steelers fans, which, in years past, it's almost 50-50, maybe even leaning towards Steelers fans. So I think that the atmosphere Thursday night is going to be great. And, you win Thursday night, you can start to look at some other things. And I want to talk about it today, but I think we'll wait till that Pittsburgh game on Thursday night and see where we are after that game. Hopefully we can win that one as well. Speaking of Pittsburgh, on Tuesday night, Tony Serino, who is the host of the Locked On Steelers podcast, will be joining us to break down that game. On Wednesday, the one and only Paul Brown, not the Paul Brown, but Paul Brown will be joining us on the podcast on Wednesday. He's in town from England. He was at the game today. He's going to the game Thursday, so we're looking forward to having him on the show. And then our post-game show for the Steelers game, we will record on Friday morning and get that out to you. Since I'll be at the game Thursday, it'll be kind of late to do it then. But we'll get that out to you on Friday morning. So we have a big week this week in terms of podcasts. We got 4 episodes coming out. Jack, before we get on out of here, is there anything else you want to discuss?
Well, I just wanted to add, JW trying to challenge our fans. We have guys coming from England, like Paul Brown. I forget the name of the podcast, but they're based out of Ireland. They came to the game. Our buddy Stephen Thomas.
2 Green Browns, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, 2 Green Browns. They came from Ireland. Stephen Thomas came from California. So, don't challenge our fan base because it's worldwide and they come from everywhere to Cleveland for games. So, no one needs to challenge the Browns, the Dog Pound, and the Browns fan base because they come out in full force. And speaking of the Dog Pound, Swagger Jr. makes his debut and the Browns get a win. I'm in.
How about that, right?
Maybe that's all we needed.
Well, that and I saw a good friend of the show, Damon Keckman. He's 7-0-1 in his last 8 Browns games. Stevens won 3-0. So, I think that those 2 guys need to get to more Browns games, at least the home games. Maybe even send them on away games too for a little bit of good luck.
I did message Steven a couple hours ago. I said, dude, just move back here. I said, we need you. And he wrote back, LOL. That's all he could say.
Well, instead of going on those cruises, on those cruise ships doing comedy, he could go on the Good Time, do comedy on there. But I'm sure those cruises pay a lot more than the Good Time would. All right, Jack, anything else?
Nope, just go Browns.
All right. You can follow Jack on Twitter at JMcCurryCLE. You can follow me on Twitter at Anthony Jokey. Be sure to follow our website at The Dogland. Be sure to visit thedogland.com. We appreciate everybody that has so far. I mentioned all those podcasts that we're going to be getting out this week with all those various guests. You can find our podcast on any platform, Apple, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. And with all of that, we're going to be getting on out here. And because the Browns won, especially today, I got for you, go Browns.